Hello, everybody. My name is Ravi Kumar from the Partner Sales Engineering team here at Snowflake. Here at Snowflake, I manage a technical relationship for all partners that are governance, security, and observability. In this video, I'll talk about how Snowflake Horizon helps and enables customers to secure and govern their most important assets, the data. And we'll focus on the data governor or steward persona. But before we jump in, let's take a fictitious company that's looking to apply governance across their enterprise assets, understand their challenges and objectives, and explore how Snowflake Horizon can really help them. Acme Corp. Acme is a fictitious drug manufacturing company from one of the regulated industries, life sciences and healthcare. They use Snowflake as their data cloud platform for most of their data needs. Their stakeholders that deal with data, like this chief data officer and the governance committee, are tasked with ensuring that their data, AI models, applications, and all their important assets are managed effectively and must ensure that the quality, security, and the compliance are ensured. At the same time, it shouldn't cause the consumers having to jump through hoops to get to it. Some of their key objectives that they are accountable for are shown here as well, like privacy, visibility, preventing silos, etc. So how does Snowflake ensure that the data is indeed compliant and protected? Snowflake enables Acme Corp to unify all their data across the systems, understand the data by discovering, classifying, and enriching data, and also secure the data, allowing Acme to govern their entire data and AI estate. With Snowflake, Acme Corp will be able to govern the data and assets across all the workloads that are deployed on Snowflake, including SQL and analytics, apps, AI and ML, Snowpark, and data engineering. So let's see how Snowflake does it. Snowflake Horizon. Horizon is a built-in solution that provides capabilities across 5 pillars. Compliance. As part of compliance, Snowflake has comprehensive certifications including FedRAMP Moderate, FedRAMP High, SOC 1, and many more. Enables Acme Corp to monitor data quality with both out-of-the-box and custom metrics. Enables business continuity, where Acme Corp can replicate and failover databases, shares, role-based access controls, and a lot more across regions and all the hyperscalers, AWS, Azure, and GCP. The second pillar, security. Features from security pillar, Acme Corp can actually secure the data with many of the capabilities enabled by Snowflake Horizon, such as encryption, authentication, network policies, database roles, tri-secret secure, a lot more. And of course, the newly introduced Trust Center. So Trust Center is our newest capability that detects vulnerabilities and violations as defined by the Center for Internet Security, CIS for short. Let's look at the privacy pillar. With features as part of the privacy pillar, Acme Corp can unlock the value of their data that is sensitive and with advanced privacy policies and data clean rooms. Interoperability. With interoperability, Acme Corp can maximize their existing data investments and better manage their entire data estate by using this pillar. Where there are so many pre-built Snowflake integrations by our leading partners across data governance, security, and observability space. Further, Acme can also use iceberg tables that makes Snowflake very flexible. So Acme and other customers can easily leverage Snowflake's performance and features for data they prefer to store outside the platform. Access pillar. And so finally, the access pillar. Customers can easily discover, classify, and share the data, enabling them to act immediately, right? There are several features here, which are like universal search, an LLM-powered search tool to quickly discover and access relevant data and apps across databases, tables, views, schema, procedures, and more. Data and app sharing. You can share direct access to live data and native applications across accounts, regions, and clouds without ever having to do additional ETL or integration work. Copilot. This is LLM powered, where an analyst can ask a question and it'll write a SQL query using the relevant tables. And finally, the marketplace. Lets you share apps, data, and models. Let's look at Snowflake Horizon in action and see how it helps the various personas at Acme that deal with the data when it comes to governance. On the left, you see all the typical personas, and on the right, you see the governance workflow. A data engineer would focus on getting the data loaded into Snowflake, and in addition, also ensure that the quality of the data is good and have it sent back to the source if it requires remediation. Typically, this would involve activities like data profiling, cleansing, standardizing, etc. Now, once the data is loaded, a data governor, data steward, identifies and remediates any issues from a business perspective. Are there duplicates in the data? Is the data conforming to governance rules, etc.? Now, going forward, a data consumer or an owner would then consume the data for their business needs. And finally, the IT admin would be responsible to ensure that the data is absolutely secure. And in addition, here are some of the responsibilities within the purview of each persona. Now, having said that, let's see how the various capabilities from Snowflake Horizon that you see on the bottom enables governance across this flow. Okay, so as you can see, the various capabilities from Snowflake Horizon can be applied to every single step of the governance. Now, while this is a typical workflow, it can absolutely be applied to a more complex workflow as well. Here's the typical governance workflow, and we'll now focus on the demo for the data governor or the steward persona. So let's jump into the demo and see how Snowflake Horizon helps the data governance and stewards with capabilities such as classification and tagging of sensitive data, visualizing lineage, and applying granular policies. As you can see, I'm logged in here into Snowside, the UI for Snowflake. And in the bottom left corner, you can see the custom role that I'm using, which is governance_admin, that allows me to do all the governance tasks. Okay, so here's the customer table. This table contains all the customer or the patient data for Acme Corp. Let's look at the table a little bit. I'm looking at the columns here. Okay, so I see birth date, I see credit card, I see social security number, definitely some of the sensitive fields. Okay, let's look at the data preview. I can definitely see the preview of the data here. I see some of the demographic details here, and I also see, oh, here you go. I can see the social security number in clear text. That's not good. And also, I see credit card information also in the clear text, right? So as you can see, these sensitive fields like social security or the credit card number and other PI attributes are visible in clear text. We'll need to apply proper governance policies to ensure that the PII and this other sensitive data is not exposed to unintended audience. So make sure to check out our video for data user persona, where we will show how this is done. But for this demo, let's focus on how do you enable stewards and other governors to understand what fields have sensitive data in it so that they can be secured. Well, eyeballing is definitely an approach by looking at the column names. In a production environment, not every column is going to be named correctly, right? So this is where classification within Snowflake comes into play. Now, there are two types of classification that you can do in Snowflake: auto classification and custom classification, right? Auto classification, as the name suggests, is that Snowflake is automatically able to look at the data and the metadata and classify the data into semantic category, which essentially means that these are the attributes that have personal data like name, age, and gender, and the privacy category, which is basically a step further, and it subcategorizes into three subcategories: identifier, quasi-identifier, or sensitive. All right, let's see how Snowflake enables to do that. Again, I am in Snowside here. I'm going to go into all the tables for this schema, right? I'm clicking on the tables where I can see all my tables on the right. And I go all the way to the top on the three dots, and the last item here is going to be classify and tag sensitive data. Let me click on that. All right, so I have an opportunity to classify all the tables in the schema. That's probably going to take a lot of time. I'm just going to focus on customer table here and click on the classify and tag sensitive data. Once I click, you can see a little wheel spinning here. So essentially, Snowflake is now looking at the metadata and the data and trying to auto classify to appropriate categories. Now, the more the data, it might take a little longer, right? The smaller the count of data in it, it might come back faster. So once it's done, Snowflake will give you an opportunity to kind of review it, make changes if you would like to before assigning those tags. Okay, looks like we are done. It's already reviewed. Now, if I go further up here, it says view the results, right? Which is essentially the classification summary. Okay, now I can see here's the customer table, and you'll see that all the fields have been recommended some kind of semantic category. You can also see the sample values that these fields has. Okay. Now, I see that the birth date, for example, right? Email and the first name and the job, all of them have been properly classified. And if I like this classification where it says is identifier, the quasi-identifiers, etc., I can basically complete the classification and save, right? Once I do that, if I go back to the customer table here and go to the columns, now I see that all these columns have been properly tagged. Again, a simple UI where I can go and look at, get a bird's eye view of all the tags that are available, right? So for example, a phone number, right? It's classified as semantic category of phone underscore number and a privacy of an identifier, which means you can typically uniquely identify the individual using this attribute. So is social security. Here we go. Semantic category, it's a national identifier. And privacy, it is an identifier, as opposed to something like a zip code, right? It's a postal code, but it's a quasi-identifier, which means this attribute by itself cannot be used to work backwards to find the individual, but a combination of quasi-identifiers might be able to, right? So that gives a good sense to a steward to see how much sensitivity is in each of these fields, right? Now let's go and apply this programmatically. All right, I'm going to go into the Snow site. Here's a worksheet that I have open. I'm going to be setting the context here. All right, I basically set the right role, database, and the schema. And from a classification perspective, what I just did on the other UI, I can also do the same thing here, right? I can do a classify and auto tag, right? So, you can basically build this within your SQL or data pipeline and classify as the data is coming in, and it would have classified. Now, if I click on the results and kind of bring this up a little bit, so here we go. It's classified each of the fields, right? And, what exactly you saw on that UI is what's shown here as well. Okay, great. All right, similarly, I can also, in one shot, classify the entire schema, meaning all the tables in a schema. So you would have to run classify underscore schema. I'm not going to run this because that's going to probably take a little while. And then I can run this command from the information schema, tag references all columns, to see all the various tag names that have been auto assigned to these tables, right? Here we go. Very effective. If you want to bring this into, let's say into a catalog per se, for example. But this is good. What you just saw was the out-of-the-box classifiers. But what if I'd like to classify, my own data, right? That's where using my own business rules. That's where custom classification comes into play, where you can extend the functionality that Snowflake provides. What I'm going to be doing here is I'd like to classify my data to see if there's any credit card details, right? So the first thing I would do is create a custom classifier called credit card. Okay. And let me see if it's been created. I can see that the credit card classifier is created. And then to that classifier, I add a regular expression saying, if it's MasterCard, it's an identifier, and this is the regular expression for that. Similarly, if it's an Amex card, it's an identifier, and that is the pattern, okay? So let me run these both statements. Done. Okay, I'm going to be listing and make sure that my custom classifiers are created. Yep, both of them, MasterCard and Amex, are created. And how do you classify? Simple command. I basically run this, and it classifies the customer table, the attribute called credit card, using the custom classifiers. Okay, essentially it's using all the classifiers there. And once I see the results, if I scroll down, I see that the credit card, it has got a high confidence that it's Amex payment card details that's in that field, right? So pretty powerful and very effective. I can also essentially, if I like to see if there's any particular tag that's assigned with the column. So it says for this column, the tag that is assigned is Amex credit card. And if I go back, I can come back here and I'll see that it's already assigned the Amex payment card, right? So that's an easy way to do it. Now, this is great. Now, I can classify the data or the field so that I know what kind of data lives in the field. But how do I track and monitor sensitive data, right, for visibility and compliance purposes? Snowflake Horizon provides tags exactly for that. In addition, tags can also be used to track resource usage that can facilitate a chargeback model within an enterprise, as an example. Okay. All right, so let's go further and look at tagging. What is tagging? Essentially, these are tags that you can assign to attributes. Very simple steps. All you had to do is, here I'm creating 3 different tags, right? I'm creating a tag called cost center that can take values sales, marketing, or support. I'm creating a second tag called confidential that can take sensitive, restricted, or highly confidential. And a third tag called PII that can take email, phone number, or last name as the tag allowed values. All right, let's create those tags. Done. So those tags have been created. Now, keep in mind, you can apply tag not at the table, not just at the table level, but at multiple levels, right? So for example, here I'm assigning or tagging the warehouse, BI large warehouse, to sales, right? This way, you know, in case where I would like to charge back, I know where exactly the usage of this warehouse can be billed back to. I'm going to be applying at a table level. As you can see at the customer, I'm going to be setting the tag confidential and a cost center tags. Okay, I set it up at the table level. And I'm also setting at the column level for email, phone number, and the last name. All right, let's do that. Okay, there we go. So I'll set up the tags. Now, I can easily retrieve from the tag references all the values. I just set it up. Okay, there we go. So the cost center, you know, what are the various values that where the domains applies. Now, if I go back to the customer table, the tags have been applied, right, at the table level here, confidential and cost center. Or if I go to the column, okay, so if I look at the email, I can see the PII type that we created, or last name, the PII type, and the last name is the allowed value, right? Now, it's also very easy to set tags here, right? I can come to this UI, click on this, and be able to, you know, quickly select a tag, and it applies that tag right here. Although you can do this programmatically as well. Okay. Now, the other thing I'd like to show is this amazing UI called Governance UI, which gives you a bird's eye view of the entire governance dashboard. Okay. For that, I would have to go under Monitoring and Governance. Okay. So here you go. It shows me how many tables are tagged, what tables have row access policies, what columns are tagged, right? So here you go, a bunch of columns that have been tagged. Okay. How many columns have a masking policy? Now, what's interesting is this here. The total number of tables are 215, and of which these are the number of, I think there are 1 table that is tagged and 1 that has table policies. The rest, 99.1% have no coverage, right? Similarly, column, there are a number of columns that have no coverage at all from a tagging perspective or policies perspective. That provide, you know, is that secure enough? So, you know, these are great starting points for a steward or a governor to start and look at how to apply or where to apply the tags. Okay. You also get a good sense of what are the most tags or most used policies for the table. Perfect. And lastly, as a data steward, it's also very important to understand the lineage of data, right? To understand the upstream impact and the downstream impact. Okay. For that, I'm going to be switching to admin. I'll go back to the data table looking at. So let's look at customer, the one that we were looking at. If you notice, the last tab is called Lineage, right? It gives a very good perspective about the sources and the targets for that particular table. So I can see that it was created from a base table, and from here there's downstream tables that we created, like customer underscore New Jersey, so maybe only New Jersey-based customers, and then from there, high net customers, and it looks like there is customer dimension and customer campaign. So as you can see, you know, a clear lineage of the tables can be seen. I can click on one of these links here. It also tells me the actual query that was used to create this particular table. In this case, it was only the customers that are, or the patients that are based out of New Jersey. Great. Let's review what we have done so far. So we have seen Horizon from the lens of a data governor or steward. With Snowflake Horizon, we classified the data to understand where the sensitive data lives. We also created tags to monitor and track the sensitive data. We looked at Lineage to understand the upstream and the downstream sources in the target. We also looked at the governance UI that gives you the bird's eye view of the entire governance activity that's happening. We really hope you like this video. Check out our other videos that show how Snowflake Horizon helps other personas that interact with data. Thank you.